Hello again, you guys! Welcome back to the channel. It is Comic Kid again, and today we have yet another exciting advanced DC Comics review lined up for y'all. Now, this Tuesday, which will be tomorrow by the time I post this video, we will be having 3 Quotey Fingers new number 1s from DC Comics, and it's really just 2 number 1s, but the third is kind of like a fresh starting point, and so yeah. Now, the reason I say 3 Quotey Fingers number 1s is because, I mean, if you saw the title and the thumbnail, then you'll know that I am talking about Action Comics 1033 as the third number 1 in this video, and I guess we'll just go ahead and just jump right in with this one. Now, Action Comics 1033 is still written by Philip K. Johnson, who has been on Superman since the Future State Worlds at War Superman title. Now, as part of the Infinite Frontier lineup, we knew that Philip K. Johnson was going to be writing Superman and Action Comics. This is a direct continuation of his Action Comics run, but with the launch of Superman and the Authority last week, as well as Superman number 1 this week, this is kind of the, I guess, official starting point to Johnson's actual run. Everything he did before this in Action Comics and in Superman is kind of like a prologue to everything DC's doing with Superman now, and so this is really kind of when we're getting into the meat of the official story that they are going to be building towards. Now, that said, if you do jump into Action Comics with this issue, you are gonna have a few questions. Really the most important thing I'd say you need to read is the Future State Worlds at War event, but I mean, aside from just a few characters and as far as everything they're doing with Atlantis, you don't really need to know a whole lot going into this story, and whatever you don't know, you can pick up on pretty quickly. But that said, I think Johnson is actually off to a pretty good start in this issue. I really liked his Worlds at War story, but I do feel as though his Superman and Action Comics before this have been a bit slower. Not that they've been bad or that he's like doing weird stuff with the character by any means. It's just been a little slower in my opinion. Now it feels like we're really ramping up towards building up the Future State story and kind of taking Clark in this direction that I'm guessing will eventually lead into Superman and the Authority. And to kind of get into some spoilers here, which there will be spoilers for each of these issues, as there usually are in the advance reviews, but I really feel like Johnson does a great job of planting the seeds for where the story is going. Having read Superman and the Authority from last week, I really feel like he's sprinkling in just a few little details here and there that are really gonna pay off in the end, we'll say. But I really like how he's done Superman so far. In this story, especially, like when the Justice League is arguing about which problem to tackle first and like which is the bigger threat versus the more immediate one. Like, the way Johnson portrays Superman in this scene especially is absolutely fantastic. I think the dude totally just gets Superman, and I love the voice he has for him in this story. And then especially at the end of the book when he's confronting both the military and the Atlanteans, like, it is just some really clever writing, and I love how Superman is just constantly trying to find a better, non-violent solution. I also really like how he did Lois in this story, setting up kind of the cliffhanger ending in this issue. That is just like one of the most badass scenes I think I've ever seen for Lois Lane, and there have been quite a few over the years. But just seeing her with that massive gun, I am all on board for this version of Lois. So yeah, overall, I would say that this is a pretty good start to what is, I guess, the official new story for Superman in the Infinite Frontier era of DC Comics. And so yeah, we will go ahead and move on to Icon and Rocket Season 1. Now, for those of you who don't know, Icon and Rocket are part of the Milestone relaunch from DC that includes characters like Static, and Hardware is coming eventually as well. And so, yeah, most people know Icon and Rocket from shows like Young Justice, but there were a few arcs just in the pre-52 especially where you would just kind of see Icon and Rocket pop up. They were never like super big in the DC universe, although Icon himself does share a very strong resemblance to Superman in terms of his origin. Powers wise, they are pretty different, but origin wise they're almost the same, and you definitely see that in this issue. One thing that I liked about this was you don't see Icon and Rocket in their costumes. It is very much an origin story for this duo, and you get Icon's origin and pretty specific detail, and then you get his first encounter with Raquel, and by the end of the issue the two decide that, hey, we're gonna team up and we're gonna try things differently. And I think Reginald Hudlin, the author, does a phenomenal job of capturing the voices for these characters in this. You definitely get the sense that Icon has been around for a while, and that Raquel is a teen girl, and everything just kind of fits very well within this story. It is fairly accurate to the original, it's just got more modern elements here and there, which I definitely think it benefits from. And given that not a lot of people are familiar with Icon and Rocket, I definitely think it's better to take a slower start and kind of focus on establishing their characters and their origins, rather than just throwing you right in, assuming you know who they are. And again, like with Static, I do think it's smart to take Icon and Rocket in the seasonal approach. If they do it kind of like Daredevil, where you actually don't see them in their main costumes for most of the series until like the last issue, then I would be totally fine with that. You know, whatever they gotta do to tell a great story and really do these characters justice, I'm all on board. And so, given that we haven't seen these characters in a while, I would definitely recommend Icon and Rocket Season 1, Issue 1 as well. I really didn't have any complaints with it. Both Action Comics and Icon and Rocket have really solid art, and so yeah, I'd encourage you guys to check them out, especially if you're a fan of Superman. Like, don't get me wrong, Icon and Superman definitely have their differences, but if you like one, then you are likely going to enjoy the other. And then, speaking of Superman again, last but not least, we have Superman Son of Kal-El #1. This one is written by the great Tom Taylor, and I don't know if I've mentioned this on the channel before, but I don't think I have disliked anything by Tom Taylor, like, ever. All New Wolverine, fantastic. Injustice, truly wonderful. Batman Detective, just incredible. Like, if you guys haven't read anything by Tom Taylor before, you really should. Not to be confused with Tom King. People do that all the time. But in regards to this #1 issue, I mean, it tells you everything you need to know about this new Superman. It even walks you through John's origin, and it does kind of clean up a few details here and there. John was technically introduced as part of the Convergence timeline, and a bunch of weird stuff was happening in the DC universe at that time, and then a bunch of continuity is changed after the fact, and so this does kind of clarify a few details about the new status quo for John's birth. Now, Tom Taylor has actually written John Kent a few times before, particularly in the Deceased comics. And if you've read those, then you already know that Taylor does a great job of working with John and just any character in the DC universe, really. And so, despite working on some familiar ground, it's actually really intriguing to see the new things that Taylor does with John. And one detail that I think he absolutely hit a complete home run with is in the fact that John is not only the son of Superman, but also the son of Lois Lane. And they mention that because of this, John will grow up with the compassion of Superman and the determination and other aspects of Lois's personality, basically getting the best of both Krypton and Earth together, giving him the potential to be just the ultimate super being. And I absolutely loved that aspect of this story. And you really get that in just one issue alone as well, especially in the fight with the military, Quotey Fingers fight with the military and the guy that's on fire. You really see the aspects of both his parents come out, and so for them to point that out and address it in one issue and just wrap everything up in a nice neat little bow without making any sort of mess whatsoever, I think was just wonderful, masterful storytelling on Taylor's part. I also love the little bit with Damian Wayne's Robin at the end. I thought it was appropriately funny and fit well within the story, but also like didn't feel too intrusive or like it was stepping on the toes of any other book or anything like that as well. And so I feel like some people probably have their reservations about John becoming Superman and like potentially being the main Superman of the DC universe for a time. But I mean, I am fully on board with this series. Anything Tom Taylor touches, I am just there for. He has yet to let me down, and so I would say this is a really, really strong week for DC Comics. I would actually recommend you guys check out all 3 of these books, and just, it's a great time to be a Superman fan in my opinion. We're getting some really, really solid stories going forward with some really, really strong creative teams, and I just applaud the efforts of everyone, both on the book and behind the scenes, working to create this new direction for the character. But that is everything that I have for you guys today. Thank y'all so much for watching. As always, be sure to check out my side project, Two Criminals, available on Spotify and any other place you can listen to podcasts. Be sure to hit like and subscribe, and let me know what you think of these 3 stories down in the comments section below. But thanks again, y'all, and I will see you again real soon.